Hey everybody, here we are with my first recorded 9.5 match. This is obviously in the Archer. Now, I did say I was going to try and stick mostly to new stuff or things that I haven't already got uploaded. So here we actually have a proper match in the Archer on the NA server with proper matchmaking, not the bizarro E25 murderfest that I had on test. We're also on the winter version of Ruinberg, which has replaced Ruinberg on Fire. Presumably because Wargaming want to tie in with the whole seasonal thing. It is in fact the middle of fucking summer here, so this map feels a little out of place, but oh well. Of course, the Archer does drive faster in reverse than forwards, because if we quickly take a look inside, behind the gun's recoil cage you can actually see the driver's seat. The driver sits facing towards where the camera is now. The gun is overhanging the back of the Archer. It was done to prevent the gun overhanging too far and weighing too heavily upon the front running gear, which would have caused all sorts of unpleasant maintenance issues on the suspension. And so instead, the gun was mounted backwards, which is not a problem if you're just in a mostly stationary ambush position, as tank destroyers were used during the war. You know, you'd scoot up to a position, get set, pre-aim wherever you're expecting the enemy to come from, pop a couple tanks, and if you had to, reposition somewhere else. Something the Archer was actually very good at because of the whole backwards thing, and is also very good at in-game. It's probably one of the few TDs that has a legitimately high chance of getting the fuck out before somebody notices what's happening. Because you don't need to turn around or anything, and you don't need to go very slowly in reverse, you just piss straight off. Now, the Archer does also have a very, very nice gun on it, of course, the 17-pounder on a tier 5. That's right, 17-pounder at tier 5, so it's basically the same as what the bathtub has. In fact, the Archer is kind of like the bathtub. Not a whole lot of armor, very big target, well, comparatively big target. The Archer's not quite as tall as a bathtub. And, you know, it's not going to survive if it's spotted, but it can put out the hurt very, very well if it's not. So we finish off that Crusader there. I was kind of playing it a bit cautiously at this point. I didn't want to get too carried away, because if you get yourself into trouble into this thing, it can be quite hard to get out of it. One thing you may also have noticed from the minimap is that Archer actually has pretty decent view range. Got binoculars mounted on it, obviously, but even when the binoculars aren't active, the view range isn't terrible. I'm guessing probably from about the size of the circle. It's some, you know, it's passable for a tier 5 TD. Actually, I think it's pretty good for a tier 5 TD. Of course, as I've said before, if I was a better prepared person, I would have notes prepared with all the stats of this thing so I can just read off of it as I commentate, but I'm not well prepared, so I can't remember offhand the actual figure for the Archer's view range. But I do recall it not being blind like the AT2, and, you know, being very effective, obviously, once fitted with binoculars. In this situation, the enemy have taken town pretty convincingly. All we have left there is the Excelsior, who's not in too good of a shape, but at this stage, I'm not too worried. I'm not in any grand hurry to get back to the city and get resets in there, because it is encounter, and so the timer is going to take so damn long to count down that we have probably a good 2 minutes here of being able to deal with the AT2. Of course, the AT2 has pretty considerable armor at tier 5, so I wanted to take him apart while I had the chance, not trusting my teammates to be able to do it. As we can see, the 17-pounder does not give a flying fuck about the AT2 side armor. And here I notice some TDs trying to do something sneaky around through our spawn. Not working. The Archer's accuracy is okay for a tier 5 TD, particularly with a gun that's good. It's not needle accuracy. You know, it's not going to hit every shot you take, but it's passable. It's certainly good enough at most ranges you'll be engaging, and the handling is also good enough. It's not the best, but it's certainly far from the worst. Again, noting that it has very nice traverse, which helps when you need to wheel about suddenly and shoot somebody that previously was the opposite side of you to your gun. The whole backwards thing makes it kind of tense in close combat, but you can do it. So the T-67 does something stupid, gets himself stuck, and now I'm looking for a reset on the BDR, and it goes in and leaves him on 1 hit point. Thank you, RNG, that was beautiful. I lead him, but he stops, so I miss, of course, but he does go down. At this point there's only 2 enemy tanks left. They're both near to our spawn, so I decide to head back that way and see if I can get a little bit more damage in. At this point I decide to wheel about now in case they come around the corner. As it happens, they didn't, so this just slowed me down. But if you are expecting combat, imminent combat, it's a good idea to accept the speed difference, the much slower speed, and just drive with your gun pointed at them. If you're in a real hurry to shift around, certainly drive backwards, but if you are actually expecting something to shoot at you or a target to light itself where you can hit it, it's not worth risking the additional 2 or 3 seconds it takes you to wheel about and get a gun on them. Now, since I don't plan on really playing the Achilles, you might wonder why I'm playing the Archer, since my main goal in the new British TD tree is to get to the Charioteer. Well, the simple reason is just I like the Archer. It's a unique vehicle. It's a nice looking vehicle. It's got an interesting quirk to it gameplay wise, which makes it certainly more fun to play than some TDs. And I figured, it's a pretty historically significant vehicle just because of the not just the weirdness of the design, but the role it was pressed into. And of course, as a Men of War player, I'm quite used to seeing archers all over the place. I used to use them a lot when I played Men of War, and used to always get my ass kicked. So yep, that's the Archer. It's pretty decent, but it takes a bit to master it. Obviously, because it has such low hit points, if you run into anything with a derp gun, you're in deep shit, you're probably dead. But the good view range, excellent gun, and good mobility should help offset that, and I'm pretty sure it has okay camo. It seems to be pretty decent at cloaking up if you sit far enough back, which you can do anyway because of your view range. So overall goals for the tree, as I said, basically get the Charioteer. I could take or leave the Conway, and really the 4005 is something that I'm not planning on getting until very, very far in the future. It is a sort of comedy thing. It's like a tier 10 KV2, but the Charioteer is about as far on that line as I'm really interested in going, because the Conway is a giant, slow target with a huge turret. And if I want that kind of DPM, I'll just play a Tortoise, and the 4005 is a tier 10 KV2, except, the KV2 has the comedy value of being able to beat up on higher tier tanks in it that really would not expect to get hurt by it, whereas the 4005, you're singled out for destruction the second anybody sees you, much like the 183. Anyway, there was other stuff that happened this patch, obviously, but I'll get into that in other videos. I'm not going to do it here. I want to keep this fairly short because I've got music to get back to listening. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.